Welcome to the Love Pod, where inspiration, vision, and real connection come alive. Wherever you are, you belong here.
Welcome to the Love Pod, everyone. My name is Nathaniel. I'm really pleased to have a special guest here, Paul Schaffenberger, who is, I know, gonna blow our socks off with his beautiful, really important message of really supporting Generation Alpha. You know, Paul and I met on school actually, and his wonderful community is all about connecting parents and children through art. And I love the show title of this, Raising Generation Alpha Will Reawaken Cosmic Consciousness. I have a million and one questions to ask you, Paul. We'll probably only get through three for this episode, so maybe we'll have to do another one. But I'd love to welcome you to our space, and just if I'd like to, invite you to tell our audience about who you are and what brought you here. And you might just have to unmute yourself there. Yeah.
Get on. Thanks, Nathaniel. I'm super excited to be here. This is officially my first podcast interview.
Amazing.
Yeah, it's an honor, truly, honor to know you and like to just have your energy just enter my life. So it's been really cool. So,
Oh
where
man, it
I'm
means a lot you saying that. Sorry to cut you off. I appreciate
no,
you.
no, no.
Appreciate you.
Yeah, so as you mentioned, we met on school. I have a community called Art Explorers Club, and this community started off a little bit innocuously as just like, oh, I want to help kids. I want to help parents. I'm good with kids. I like to engage them. I'm also an artist. I've been doing art my whole life, and this is a skill set that I can engage. I can merge these two things, and voila, it can be like a fun thing to do. As it's evolved, though, I've kind of fallen into this rhythm of like understanding how important it is.
Hmm.
And for me, this has it developed into like understanding that our children's future is paramount. I mean, we really have to be directly engaged in how they are developing, especially in this modern era with technology, with the public education system, with how society really treats children.
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of things that we're missing, that we're ignoring, that we're losing focus on, or we believe that we have a total grasp on,
Hmm.
but we're actually going the wrong direction. So
Agreed.
my whole thing has evolved into this being an online community and a resource for parents to help their children thrive. Um, Our mission is to blend conscious parenting and art education into a framework that teaches children real creative skills while nurturing focus, awareness, confidence, self-expression, resilience. It's really on the internet in this community that I've created. It's focused on helping parents, but with the caveat that this is all about the next generation. This is
Hmm.
all about our kids. My daughter is 6 years old. She's part of Generation Alpha.
Hmm.
Uh, so I'm really focused on that. I think there's like a beautiful cosmic coincidence there with them being called Generation Alpha, which
Yeah.
we can get into. But it does not only extend to Generation Alpha, of course. I
Hmm.
think technically this year is supposed to be the start of Generation Beta, whatever that means.
Oh,
You know,
really? Oh,
you
interesting.
can, yeah, you can take, I kind of
But
like, it's a bit tongue in cheek for me with this generational naming thing, but
yeah.
I do like that there's something there that our society is
Hmm.
really tuned in on at the moment.
Hmm.
And I think alpha is significant. But yeah, we can extend that to Generation Z, Generation Millennials. We're still kids in a lot of ways.
Generation we. Yeah, absolutely.
Generation we. Exactly.
We're all
So
children, right? I mean,
we're
I
all
think I
children.
like to look at us like trees. Like the rings of the tree still exist within us. I think we have a baby, we have a toddler, we have all these aspects of us, and we know, like, in a lot of scientific terms, that we have developmental periods that if we get stuck, developmentally in those parts of our life, those parts need to be brought back and re-embraced. So I love the work you're doing, Paul. I think it's absolutely really important. And you and I have had similar missions, man. So I'm really grateful that you're on the show with us and talking about these important things.
That's really cool. And that's actually very interesting you mentioned that tree analogy because I've been reading a book recently, as of late, called Letting Go. You may have even recommended this to me. Someone recommended it to me, but by David Hawkins,
Okay.
Dr. David Hawkins.
Yep. Yep.
I think it was
It's
written in the 70s or something,
okay.
but pretty profound, fascinating book about basically the hierarchy of emotions,
Mm,
which if you've never gotten into that, if you've kind of been going through life without any conscious awareness of like what your emotions do to you on a day-to-day cycle, this book is like a revelation. I mean, there's so many moments that I have like just a simple sentence that this book points out about like why your anger manifests in this capacity in this way because it's being suppressed or there's no like direct analogy that automatically defines what is happening in my life, but it's always like it's like this all makes sense. This
mm,
is all just so clear. It's just mapping it all out in a way that I can infer. And like the tree ring thing is like they specifically point out, I actually wasn't planning on talking about this, so I'm like going off my memory here, but he goes into there's like, yeah, exactly what you said. Like there's the inner child in us,
mm.
there's the parent, and then the adult, I think, is what the emotional analogy is. So it's
Okay.
like every emotion we're experiencing, we experience it at a child level, we experience at a parent level, and we experience at a adult level.
Mm. Interesting.
And each of those like makes a profound impact on how we interact with it. And like there are levels that we have been either repressing or suppressing, which is another interesting thing that I've learned the distinction between those two words in a way that I've never consciously thought of. But like
Okay.
repression is a subconscious thing.
Okay.
Suppression is a conscious thing.
Oh,
So
interesting.
if you're actively ignoring an emotion, you're trying to just get rid of it, and
Hmm.
but you're aware of it. That's suppression. Repression is like your mind has this incredible system where it's just trying to do anything and anything it can to make your day-to-day life more efficient.
Okay.
And like your processing power, your consciousness, everything is about like let's just focus on the now, figuring stuff out. I'm
Hmm.
sure you have a lot to say about this,
No,
but
I think, I mean,
learning.
I think it's really interesting, understanding. I think, whatever those mechanisms are, they're all about keeping us safe. Even
Right.
the conscious one, right? Like if we're trying to like ignore that elephant in the room, usually there's a social reason for that or whatever. It's like go along to get along. But if the subconscious ones that maybe I think a lot of things that happen to us when we're really young are pre-verbal. So we don't have the skills of that age to articulate our needs, and I watch my daughter around certain individuals and I can tell that they're affecting her. And I talked to her about it. Like even this today, Paul, she was playing with the Christmas tree bulbs and I had to explain to her like Nona, her grandmother did not want her to play with that, and she helped put them up. She loves trying and practicing, but she was getting a little, she was tired, she needed a nap, and she was getting a little rough with them. So I said, like that's enough for now. And then she like squeezed my arm, like she was like pinching me. I said, and I didn't react. I said, "Are you feeling angry?" And she said, "Yeah." And I said, "Well, it's okay to feel angry, and I get that, but if we take out our anger on other people physically like that, it's not kind, and it's not the best way of dealing with the anger." She's like, and she understood, so like I feel like you
Wow.
brought up something, earlier about how we're talking with children, and I remember being in those ages,
Hmm.
and I was very aware on various levels of what was going on. I might not have understood all the concepts that the grown-ups were talking about because I didn't have that framework, but I could definitely understand like the the overall like meaning and what they were referring to, what they were pointing to with their words, even though I was very young and you know, I wasn't able to articulate. So she totally understood everything I was saying. And you and I have talked about this, right? Like how we talk down to children, we patronize them, and how that's so not in alignment with them. Just to open the door to this conversation, Paul, like we talked a lot on the show and in IRL, in real life. This is a term I
Uh,
learned from school. I thought this was all in real life, but apparently it's not. This is welcome to the digital world here. But you know, like children are our greatest teachers, and I've been even going way deeper in this lately. They're our greatest leaders too. I really see them as
oh,
leaders. So I'm very curious about your contemplations around Generation Alpha, reawakening this consciousness. And I agree with you. I don't think it's I don't think it's, you know, just for no reason that it's called Generation Alpha. So yeah, man. Yeah. I
yeah,
think it's profound work. And two, because the parents need, you know, they need that connection too. Because as we're all ascending in consciousness, they need these skills too. They grew up in a generation, a lot of parents, you know, maybe didn't even have internet growing up. The world's changing so rapidly, you know, so it's a lot to for families and stuff going through this transitions together.
absolutely. And that it's, yeah, everything that you're saying about like uh children being leaders, that's another level I think that is do so much exploration and so much contemplation about. I have not taken it that far as in just in general thinking, but that's like I could absolutely 100% everything that aligns with everything that I think about. And yeah, I think it's cosmically tied to this whole notion of Generation Alpha kind of being a shift. Like there I don't know how to explain it without sounding a little woo-woo or something, or like I'm trying to manifest something, but there is definitely an element to the whole phenomena of like us being conscious of our generational groups, because this is kind of a recent thing. Like this pop culture, media culture kind of supplanted this on the society in the past 50 years with post World War II stuff, like the boomer generation. There was stuff, I think, before that, but it's just so ingrained in us now.
Mm,
It's an identity marker, and
hmm
like how that has evolved and where we're going with what that means for our collective consciousness. I don't think there are things like that that happen on that scale that are just arbitrary. I just like I can't believe that that's all just some kind of fluke thing that doesn't really impact us or
Yeah.
affect us, even if it's not intentional or it's like some kind of subconscious thing
hmm
that we as humans do collectively. But like calling ourselves millennials, like what a strange term, you know? Like it makes sense for the context, but it's a way to like ground us in this place and time
mm
and how we take pride in that or how we associate with that, just
hmm
given that we are born in this certain era it's really interesting. So
mm hmm
that kind of cycle, starting with the boomers and going to Gen X, the whole thing, I've done some research on this. The whole thing just came from, I forget the author's name, but he wrote a book called Gen X.
Okay.
And that was like our, the generation older than us, uh, calling them Gen X as they were like this kind of nameless, like they were not being acknowledged in the space,
mm
kind
hmm
of a flyover country, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, they were
Um,
much less like there was a lot less generate like people in that population. Like I think the demographics are smaller than definitely the boomers and probably the millennials because the millennials are children of the boomers, so it was kind of that an in between generation, right?
right, yeah, exactly. And a lot of their pop culture was like kind of nihilistic, like grunge music, and like that whole um, Gen X cultural shift was a that was like their marker, and
Mm,
the X just became the way that we chronologically synchronize the generations from that point forward. So like,
Oh, that makes sense. That's why it's called Generation Z. Oh, okay.
yeah,
X, Y. Oh, yeah. Isn't that interesting, eh?
I
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
And like millennials are technically Gen Y,
Yeah,
and
Gen
that
Y.
going to care
Well,
about that. But
you're
like,
an artist, and you mentioned woo woo. I think part of what's going on here, Paul, and why, part of the confusion in this quote unquote scientific age, and I question a lot of the materialistic dogmatism of science. I think that science
Mhm.
is a language of the mystical, and we can understand like the cosmos. And I want to talk about this term cosmic. Like we have now ways of looking at the cosmos and looking at our interconnection of the cosmos, and all that is because of our developing ability to articulate through the languages of science, and also the arts. I think are really important for this because you know life is it's a co-creative process. I truly do believe that evolution is something that we're actively engaged in. It's not some passive thing that happens over time, but it's actually based on our focus. And I do believe that artists, in general, especially artists with purposeful missions that are intentional, they're very actively involved in expanding the consciousness of human beings. So what you're doing, in talking about these things, I think it's really important. I worked at the National Gallery of Canada for a while, and I've always done art. Like I've always, made things, but I always felt like there was a greater purpose to me doing art. It wasn't like just doing
Uh-huh.
art for art's sake, like making pretty pictures. To me, there was always something very important about creativity. And an elder told me one time, he was really connected to the land of the Thunderbirds. He was an interesting guy, and he helped a lot. He worked a lot with homeless people, and he told me, he said, "You honor creator when you're creative." And I was like, I couldn't have thought of it any simpler than that. But
Wow.
I like yeah, exactly, like wow, right? And our children, I mean, I look at Luciana, she just like usually the first thing she says in the morning, color, color. She just wants to color. Like she wants to make stuff. She wants to do stuff. She wants,
Right.
and so I feel like it's very true, just that title, like they're awakening something in us if we'll listen to these children who are our teachers and who are our leaders. And there's lots of ways we could look at this, right? Like children
Mhm.
just live, their heart is open, their emotion, like it takes a lot of courage to like, depending on your paradigm of life, like to come into a reality and have to learn how to operate this really complex, beautiful body as it develops, and you have all that, like the awkwardness of coordination and all the growing pains and all the unknowns that you're going into, and then to just this persistence of like learning to walk and all these things that are kind of like talk about suppression, or I don't know if it is repression, but like the education systems just make us start doubting ourselves and question our ability to fail, and we want to play it safe, and children are not like that. They're very like they'll climb things that are dangerous. They'll try all these things. So when you talk about reawakening or awakening cosmic consciousness, what are you pointing to? I think it's really important, your artist's voice. So I want to hear
Mhm.
that.
I'm pointing to just what human beings are. I think
Mm.
that the children represent the cosmic consciousness. Just like you're saying, they are completely without hesitation, without reservation. They do everything completely from the source of their being. And just like you're saying, the first thing your daughter wants to do when she wakes up, starts the day, is color. I That's so profound to me because it registers everything that the human story is in this simple moment. Like we can manifest a like we can manifest our consciousness by analyzing things, by being scientific, by breaking things down, and that's all beautiful and that's profound, and that those things have their place. But like a pure stream of consciousness is like just it's starting from the head or from the brain chakra. What is the
The
top chakra?
crown, like
The
the crown.
crown.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we are connected to the cosmos. Like
Right.
it's true, right? Like I mean, all traditions of our, ancestors recognize this connection that we have. And we have different language for it for science now. Like we know like there's
Yes.
one talk by Tom Chi on TEDx, like he talks about how the heart it's connected to supernovas because the only way that the heart functions is with iron, and iron is only created from like basically supernovas, like
Wow.
galaxies colliding into one another. So like we are absolutely cosmic, but we don't
Right.
think in this terms. Like a big part of what we talk about is like we've normalized miracles. Like we're trillions of cells, all like we
Exactly.
just we just like act like it's so normal. Like like this world is so profoundly beautiful. Like the diversity of life. Like you just walk outside and look at some little flowers that are hiding in the grass. It's like wow. Like it's the intricacy, the intelligence, and the loving care that is provided to every creature on earth is absolutely astounding. So yeah, our children are so tapped into that. I totally agree, man.
Tapped into that in exactly the way you're describing. And as you're saying, I was thinking about the emotional hierarchy thing. My mind just went back there because that consciousness is we are so profound in what we experience as consciousness because we have that capacity for emotion. When you think of other animals, they seem to have rudimentary capacity for specific emotions. Like dogs obviously can react to humans, but I'm 100% believe that dogs have evolved to understand emotions because they've evolved alongside of us. And there's a lot of other creatures on the planet that seem to key into things like that a little more than others. But where we are is like, I mean, we're so many levels into the conscious realm that we can like really have our entire being dictated by certain emotions. Like
Mm,
if we are peeved at a situation that from 20 years ago, that can impact how we live our lives.
mm,
And the greatest thing that this book is pointing out that I'm reading, the Letting Go book, is there's like multiple, if you have any concerns about just trusting this idea that consciousness impacts us, or sorry, emotions impact us on a physical level, there are so many studies that have documented this, that anger, resentment, these kinds of
mhm,
emotions harbor uh, things in us, negative like life energy within our bodies, and they
mhm,
impact how our organs work, how our heart reacts to things, how our brain is functioning. So these are very, very integral to how we function as people and as a society. And like, I think there's that constant dynamic between the individual and the society and how that plays out through uh, what we choose to focus on.
mhm.
I think we can uh, critique that for years. We could have this podcast go on for hours and
Just
about like,
keep it running.
yeah, like where the media has taken us as a society, how politics impacts what the majority of people are feeling on a daily basis. I mean, those things are profound. They really, truly impact how we interact with each other.
Totally.
And not just on the superficial level of like, oh yeah, this side I'm team A, that he's team B, like
Hmm.
I don't like him. It's really like affecting us physically.
Yeah.
And I think the way children interact with the world, they are our leaders in that way, just as you
Mhm.
articulated. And like I hadn't really connected that until now, just talking this out, because that makes all the sense in the world that we would want to emulate that.
Mhm.
This is basically like the Buddha. This is like Jesus. This is
Mhm.
like these spiritual masters who really figured out that tapping into the deepest vein of consciousness is to be at one with the universe,
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
And that means like letting go of your emotions, letting things just, the universe wants us to be thriving. And
Mm.
I think that
Yeah.
thriving is manifests itself in the day-to-day experience through art. I like
Yeah.
truly 100% believe that.
You know what duck medicine is?
Mm-mm.
No? Do you ever see two ducks get in a little skirmish with each other? They kind of
Uh-uh.
like they kind of like rile each other up, and then if you watch them, they swim in the opposite directions. And what do you think they do?
They just they think about what they've done.
No, they don't. They don't. They literally just they shake their feathers off. They go like this, and they shake that energy off, and then they kind of swim off. And like almost every animal species, like deer, similar, like they run if they're in threat and then they go and you'll watch them shake. When I'm listening to you, Paul, it sounds like our creative expression, as I was going to ask you about this, so I'm glad you brought it up, our creative expression through making things, through art and
Mhm.
getting that emotion expressed onto a physicality is a way that we kind of shake and then move
Yes. Oh my
forward,
God.
right?
What a perfect analogy. Yeah, absolutely. That is precisely what this all is. And I couldn't agree more with that. And like just the fact that that's a natural disposition of children should be a wake-up call for all of us. And I
Mhm.
think we've kind of forgotten that, you
Yeah.
know, we've really, especially in this era of like helicopter parenting and like the whole goal of parenting nowadays is to keep children safe or
Yeah,
something.
yeah, yeah. Si
I think it's
Careful instead of competent. Yeah,
right.
Julie and I are very aware of that. And like our parents are like her grandparents are very much about like careful, careful. And I hear other parents talk about that at the park, and I really try to communicate with Luciana how important it is to develop her competency. And she's extremely physically oriented, so she wants to try new things. And I believe the best thing I can do is to reinforce her competence. And
Mhm.
while we're on this topic, Paul, like you're reminding me, well, it's funny. I have a book called Dolphin Parenting. I haven't read it yet. It's for like a little bit older, but I'm going to read it soon because I think that's really important because it's the antidote to helicopter parenting. It's like really being like an emotionally encouraging social, like when you talk about emotions, like I think that depending on the social structure of the species, like
Mhm.
elephants are profoundly emotional. They have profound memory.
Right, right.
Same with dolphins and stuff too, because but they're so social. Like they stay together their whole life. They have to be. It's a skill set, right?
Yeah, I
Humans,
agree.
on the other hand, you were talking about our expansiveness. I feel like a big part of that is rooted in our language, and art is the epitome of our language. Even some languages are still very like I think of Chinese, for example, is very character driven. It's very much
Yeah.
it's a like a very visual artistic rendering. And some
Mhm.
languages, especially the visual language of art, is very much about that that intimate relationship we have with our vision, with our relationships. Like art is largely relational. So, I'm wondering, like, as an artist yourself, like you said, you've been doing art your whole life. Why do you think now that you've gone through this community building process, you're really helping parents to reconnect with their children? How are you seeing now this importance in really honoring the children for their natural innate gifts? And like, what are you learning along this way of doing this? And how's it like impacting you as an artist?
That's a great question, and something that I mean this whole process is really it's interesting because the focus on the community has kind of compelled me to focus more inward, not only on
Mm,
myself but on my daughter. And I care immensely about fatherhood and ensuring that my daughter has like a stable environment, that she's loved, that she can experience um, really expressing herself without reservation, without any kind of judgment. And that stems from a lot of different things. But it's interesting because, yeah, the more I have focused on the community, the more I've been like, I'm kind of subconsciously creating a memory bank of how significant my own child's creativity is. And each step of the way, like I have a category on my school community called daily creativity. And I kind of fell off of it a little bit, but the goal was basically to post something every day that was an example of what my daughter was doing that
mm.
I just like mesmerized by, blown away by, because so often that kind of creativity is just flowing through children, and it's just taken as, oh, this is just the way children are. This is just how everybody develops. We all use our imaginations. This is just kid stuff. We can like dismiss it. It's not as,
Normalizing miracles. We're
yeah,
very good
exactly.
at this. We're very good at this.
Precisely. Normalizing miracles. I mean, just the profound nature of that in itself. Like how I posted something today about how she took a cardboard box that had a bunch of like other cardboard structures in it to like support some product in it, and it completely flipped it around, turned it into, used her imagination so effortlessly to create a dollhouse. And like, this is what children have been doing for thousands
Mm.
and millions of years, maybe not millions, but hundreds of thousands of years. And
Well, it's
this is like,
basically the nature of our universe too. Like you talk about what we
yeah,
are. If we look at just the physical world, which we know has been here for, for like way longer than we could even fathom in our minds, and how many
right,
worlds. I mean,
right.
I believe it's eternal, but I mean, look at like the landscapes and stuff. I think this is the risk of looking things through a materialistic, dogmatic science view, which isn't really to me true science. Like I think the scientists that I really admire always come to this baseline of, well, everyone gets one miracle. So what's behind the miracle? Like we have the Big Bang, but the Big Bang of what? The Big Bang of nothing. Nothing just all of a sudden blew up into everything. Like it doesn't
Right.
make any sense. So
Uh-huh.
so like all of them come back to this idea of there is a creator. There is something, there is an intelligence beyond our capacity as individual human beings and maybe even as a species to fully comprehend. So
Yeah.
there is a humility in that, but not the humility that I feel like we're conditioned to have. Like,
Yes.
you're small, you're this, you're. I think there's this meme like that shows like where we are our planet in the galaxy, and I think it might have been on Joe Rogan show I saw, and it's like you crying in the shower, about your having to go to a job or so. It just shows you like the enormity. And I'm not talking about that kind of humility, this idea that we're so small and insignificant. I actually think we're all incredibly important to the whole of
Mhm.
consciousness. Our contribution to the expression through our relationships with one another is so important and so valuable.
Mhm.
And because we're all growing together and we're all like developing we're on our soul's journey, we're on our hero's journey, like, however you want to look at it. And um I don't even know where I was going with that, but oh yeah, with wonder, like humility that's rooted in the wonder of it all. And that's,
Yeah.
I mean, I would be, if I would use one word to describe my childhood, it would be that word. It would be
Oh,
wonder.
100%.
Wonder. Everything was wonderful. Like I was just, even little plastic things and things, like everything was just, and I watch my daughter, she's in that world. She's like, she has a little, some bears she likes to nurse with, and they're
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a gummy bear, and she's always like, she's like orso, there's purple orso, there's yellow, and then I found a little thing of Yeshua or Jesus that my friend gives me on island, and I she's carry this all around, and I say, where's Jesus? And she's like, Jesus is my sock. Like she just puts them everywhere, and it's amazing, but it's the wonder, right?
Wonder.
Everything's wonderful to her still,
Hmm.
and I want to preserve that for her forever if I can.
Right.
I managed to maintain holding on to a thread of that, and I believe that I credit that to art and my love of just playing with color and playing with creativity. I'm wondering if you've had the similar experience, Paul.
Oh yeah, and that's such a another really great segue, because the way that I think our society has really tried to grapple with the fact that we are so out of touch with that, is our obsession with nostalgia. Um, and I think that's pretty self-evident as soon as you start contemplating it from this perspective. But really, like, our society's obsessed with nostalgia.
Hmm.
It's about like everything that there's like shows and all sorts of things, there's channels on TV, there's internet forums, there's all sorts of things that just everybody's gloating about how good it used to be. I mean, you look at
Hmm.
a YouTube comment section, if it's like a video from the 80s, whatever, a music video from the 90s, now it's like a music video from like 2005. Like, this is,
The good old days of
yeah, right.
2005. Yeah, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
literally, I've seen this like there's a video of Times Square. I don't know where I saw this, some social media thing, probably on Instagram, but of Times Square of like being filmed with a camcorder in 1999, right? I was like
Okay.
14 at the time. And
Yeah, I was probably around there too.
yeah, 2024 or whatever is when I saw this, and like all the comments are like kids being like, "Oh man, the good old days. Like, man, New York used to be so real." And I'm like, everything in this video looks exactly the same. It's like this is like Times Square looks exactly the same. Okay, it's
That's
just
hilarious.
a lot more billboards that are like have LED lights on them. But yeah,
So it's cooler.
yeah, it's somehow there's a mystery to it. There's a
Yeah.
wonder to it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like tapping into that more innocent part of ourselves where
Mm,
it's truly it's like exactly what you're saying. The wonder is the higher level of consciousness. It's
mm,
we kind of bring ourselves down through building our societies and that the structures that have to maintain the society in a specific way are all about like, well, we have to fall into this very specific way of doing things, our social structure. And like,
mm.
I can't expound on all the things with some perfect alacrity. I think I'm using that word correctly. But like,
I love it.
there's a lot more to say there that I probably am missing. But like,
I don't think you're missing anything, man.
yeah, like
Yeah.
how that manifests, I think is really significant. And people nowadays with like our how society operates is really like taking full advantage of that. And
Mm,
uh our whole social structure, our whole like work dynamic, our whole like how society operates, some of that may be necessary for consciousness to expand. I think technology is a huge thing that the intersection of technology and creativity, there's something there to really explore and understand better. And our society
mm,
kind of operates in this way that it necessarily has to do both simultaneously in order
mhm.
to attain the next level. And part of that involves like maybe suppressing certain factors that make us would maybe enlighten us more. Like we can't be there's yeah, this is a not fully formed thought.
No, I hear you though. I
I
hear the
think you get what
nutshell,
I'm
man.
saying.
I'd like to bounce some things off you because I think that, like what I'm hearing you say, and correct me if I'm wrong, is like, there's a certain level of us that there's a certain level of our consciousness that is being suppressed because it would be seemingly dangerous to, blow the cap off it. Like if we were all driving water-powered flying cars tomorrow, well, there's a
Exactly.
lot of systems that would be like it would be a little chaotic because like how are the, like what about the streetlights and what all the like we're evolving gradually and there are certain levels of playing the game. I would say I would extend that all the way up to the highest portals of consciousness where people have fully mastered, their beings have fully returned to a total center of home. And so they're seeing the game, so to speak, on a different level. And they're seeing,
Yeah.
and I think that's true here on Earth too. There are players of these games who they see more of a meta, they're involved in some of the decisions that guide our society and who are the ones who are maybe influencing how Times Square changes and stuff, things like
Uh-huh.
that. But I want to bring it back to what you said, about this obsession about nostalgia. I think it's actually really a unique thought. I've never heard it before. I've never really thought of it. I think it feels like an original thought to me. I don't know if it's just something that's emerged from you, Paul, but it sounds like a really beautiful synthesis of your view as an artist, as a father, and seeing these dynamics in our society. Because if we have all gone through this period of loss, and whether that's from educational institutionalization, where these wonderful aspects of ourselves get kind of shut off so that we can kind of
Yes.
go in line and be part of the crowd and stuff, or maybe it's not so intentional, but it's just like you said earlier about the repression that we have to go through in society to kind of like, oh, it's like, oh, we don't talk about feelings in this world. Okay, well, I'm just gonna start eating chips then. That's I kind of feel like that was my experience. Oh, we don't talk about stuff. Okay, well, I'm gonna numb these things because it's too uncomfortable. So whether it's like intentional or just subconscious part of our collective, like it definitely happens. So I
Yeah.
really think this is a really interesting way of looking at why is nostalgia like why it's funny. Before my daughter was born, I was nostalgic to watch Home Improvement because I was like, I feel like there was this, maybe it was like like where's my like manly this idea, because I never I was always an artist. I was never really into cars, and I just I liked socializing with people, but all kinds of people, and I was like, okay, but it was this nostalgia I was looking for, like something I knew, so I was going to be letting go of something and stepping into fatherhood, and it was subconscious, I think, to like
Right.
reconnect with a part of my childhood that I watched these shows. And so I
100.
think it's to me it's an original thought, and I really I think it's interesting. So I'd like you to kind of, yeah, like let's
For
expand a little
sure.
bit on this.
I love it. Yeah, no, I've heard this articulated in other ways in other places, but how it fits in with where I'm coming from is very distinctly like the dichotomy between like the individual versus the collective, and like how that all
Mm,
interacts and plays off each other, and like what it means. And I think, yeah, like there definitely are subconscious things that drive our behaviors. And so much of that is driven by like the inner child in us, the inner parent, the inner thing that we were mentioning before, like the tree ring thing. Those are emotions that need to be acknowledged and brought to heel by things that we like have comfort with. And like nostalgia is precisely that. Like how we hear a song that we haven't heard in 20 years, or how we like when I got to college, there were so many moments. I don't know what was going on. It was like the latest thing, had been like 10 years prior. Not that much time. I'm not like a very like developed conscious person at 19, 20
hmm
years old.
hmm
But I'm experiencing these moments of like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I completely forgot about this aspect of my childhood.
mm.
There, like, this is just funny how this is all coming together. But I was
Yeah.
watching Mystery Science Theater 3000 last night, if
Okay.
you're familiar. That show was on like all the time when I was a kid. We
Okay.
loved the show. And the theme song of that show, I distinctly remember. This is funny now because this is like 20 years ago now. Like as I entered college, the internet was suddenly at my fingertips in this
Mm,
way that it had never been when I was at home,
mm.
like as under my parents' roof. Now it was like my computer. It was I
Yeah.
could do whatever I want, like on my computer. I can, so there was a lot of music downloading. There was a lot of like whatever I wanted to research or get into and share with my friends was like a huge priority. So like suddenly it was like, oh, rediscovering all this stuff from the 90s.
Mm,
Literally, that was like it was delving into that, and that was like a subconscious expression. There was
mhm.
something there. It was like a comfort. I was away from home. I was like for the first time living on my own, and hearing that song, the theme song, the Mystery Science Theater 3000. I mean, that still resonates with me in such a distinct way. I cannot
Yeah.
express to you what it is. And I think we all have those moments. We have certain things that we just resonate with and we can't explain why, but they were comfort when we were at that age,
Yeah.
when we were
I, I
children.
I'd like to expand on this because I've contemplated this in maybe a different lens, in sitting in the
Mhm.
circle together. It's like I I think we have anchors that we anchor it to, like there's these things, like for like I can remember like watching Star Trek The Next Generation with my dad, and there was an emotional component there, but it wasn't just about
Right.
the Star Trek. It was like it was the contextual environment and the what I was going through emotionally and all these things. And
Yes.
I don't think there's a word for it in English, but I kind of call it, it's like it's there's like a spice to that time. It's like there's like this emotion doesn't really capture, because how we talk about emotions is like, we I think we generalize them so we can understand what we're going through one another. We say, the sadness and happiness, and then there's like feelings, which I include like sensations and stuff like that. But to me, it's like a combination of all those things, and it has to do
Yeah.
with our environment. It has to do with our like our relationship context, and it's like this focus. And I feel like I've gone through really distinct periods of life that feel like distinct lifetimes within a life. Like I feel like I've had at least like eight of these kind of segments of life that are really dense,
Hmm.
emotionally. And it's almost like they were a different lifetime. Like I'm not the same individual. I've
Right.
grown, I've leapt, and I meet other people that from those chapters, and from my perception of them, a lot of them seem to maybe have kind of maintained a similar persona through their whole life, and they don't have the same experience that I have of
Hmm.
these like really sad. And I wonder too if it's more of an artistic thing. Now I've realized like I have this, I call it neurospicy now. I'm not divergent.
Neurospicy.
A neurospicy. Like people, I didn't realize, like, I thought when everyone walks into a room, they can hear everything that's going on all the time. Like, oh, you can hear the dog over there and the train over there and the airplane in the sky. I thought everyone experienced life that way and had all these intense emotions of life. But no, that's not true for everybody, right? Like, so maybe it's because I'm more sensitive that I really deeply thought of these things. But that's what I'm hearing when you're talking about like the it's like these things anchor us into times, and we know it like smells, right? You can have a smell and it's just like, oh,
100%.
I was in like the
Right.
bathtub when I was like three, when I smelled
100%.
that thing, you know.
Yeah, and maybe just riffing, but like maybe that's those things are set up in such a way that they do remind us of our pure consciousness, of like what it is to be pure consciously again, because if we don't like if we're not compelled to recognize those moments, where are we going? Like what's grounding us? How are we living our lives other than just like feeding a machine? We're just like this
Mhm.
robot, this fleshy robot that are, we just keep working until we die or something. Like
Well, we
we're
know
not
that's not the
establishing
truth,
meaning.
though. I think that's the other game that's being played. I believe we have an aspect of ourselves that is so high in intelligence and love that allows us to play
100%.
this game.
Yeah.
And but it does send reminders that we are not this thing. I hear people
Yeah.
talking about their body like they say a meat suit, and I always call it out. I'm like, is it true? Because I look at the body like the intelligence of this body is so much more advanced than my personal consciousness. Like,
Right.
I don't know how to grow liver and grow like heal myself and like, and then reproduce and have a baby. Like, I don't know how to do that. Like my body is just so much more intelligent than me. Calling it a meat suit, I just find is so degrading to it,
Degrading. Yeah.
right? And so, yeah, I agree. Like, and I think that we we intentionally choose to have this experience. I mean, you and I have like in this because we're both deep contemplators. I can tell from the moment I met you, Paul. Like you've heard this perspective maybe in different words, but it's like, we're the individuation of source or God or whatever, having, a journey of remembering ourselves through what our relationship with one another or some kind of lens. But there is an experience here that we're intending to have. And just to bring back to your Times Square, pointing that out,
Hmm.
I feel like part of this nostalgia thing is always pointing to the past, or we're getting too ahead of ourselves in the future, but not really rooted in the gratitude of this present experience that we're having on Earth. Like because we don't
Right.
know how it's all going to unfold, but like that, and I feel like maybe we could call it the ego, maybe we can call it whatever, but it's always like it's slippery, right? As soon as you try to like hone really into this moment now, it kind of like, oh yeah, remember that, how, oh, the good old days of Times Square in 2005 or 1999, when everyone
Yeah,
thought
exactly.
the world was going to crash with Y2K.
Yes, exactly, exactly. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, that's fascinating. And what you were saying earlier, because I want to respond to that, but I had
Mm,
another thing I wanted to respond to from what you were saying about your like segments of life and
mm,
how you feel like and I feel the same way. Like like 1 through 5 was a completely different life than 5 through 10 or whatever. However you want to quantify it. It was more just like experiential kind of things that were just like I truly my brain, my everything just grew because it did. I mean, there's a physical reality to that element too. And then it's this interesting um, um, collusion or confluence of things where like science again somehow enters the picture of like this cosmic reality and just proves the cosmic reality. Science is always trying to be like, this is the most objective way to look at everything, and we can like ground ourselves in objective reality. And instead, it ends up kind of emboldening the whole cosmic understanding of the world and like cosmic consciousness and everything. And that is this like idea. I don't know if you've heard this, but like the 7 year, every 7 years, every cell in our body's replaced.
Hmm. Yeah.
And like, however true that actually is, if that's physically true, that's really fascinating to put that into the same conversation as like, oh, my whole entire understanding of life at this stage was completely different compared to this stage and to this stage and this like,
Hmm.
yeah, it's roughly 4 times, or 5 times, 6 times now that there are, I'm not 28.
You can be
But
whatever
like,
age you choose to be, man. Well, I love that you bring in the physicality to this too, because one of the things I know we talked a little bit about the Christ letters is, in them he talks about the importance of looking at mother divine consciousness as being the magnetic force that creates form in life. And I think there is really something important to be said about that physicality part. Like when I talk about that spice, remember I was talking about like the
oh yeah, yeah,
context of the environment and everything. And I
yeah,
think that
exactly.
this is why we go through like mourning, because there's a sense of like Times Square 2005, but there's also a sense like when we have someone pass in our life, and maybe, we even maybe have a really good centered understanding that they are just going into the non-physical, but there's a missing of their physicality, which is a unique expression of consciousness that did not exist. It won't exist again, like, so there is something I think to be said about that physicality that we go through life. It's not something that's where I feel like the material dogma like totally focuses on it, and then a lot of the spiritual perspectives just say, "Oh, well, the body is something to discard." I
Yeah,
think
yeah, yeah.
both are very like, why would we? Why would life manifest through this electromagnetic expression of physicality if that wasn't important to experience
Right.
that, right?
Yes, dude, absolutely. And the thing that concept of there's no other person that will ever be exactly like you. Even your identical twin will never
Yeah.
be exactly like you. We all have our own unique fingerprints. I mean, just that alone, the fingerprint thing, even if there was every other element of our bodies were identical to each other and there was no chromosomes, there was no like DNA markers to like distinguish each other, just the fact that we have these crazy, super, super complicated ridge lines that just manifest in our skin in
Yeah.
this way that uniquely identify each and every one of us,
Yeah.
billions upon billions of people over the course of whatever 100,000 years. Like, what is that? How is that even possible? Like, what is doing that, you know?
It's funny. We met some really wonderful folks out in Sedona, who were. It was actually through technology. I did a deep dive and asked, because I've been studying the Christ letters now for about 11-ish years, if not a little more than that. And I'm like, who's talking about these out there? And I found Michelle Sinclair, and she's been doing a very active podcast. And I met her and her friend Alara, and they both had this download about fingerprints in general, how when our baby's body is forming, the movement, because in the letters he describes how the movement of life, all the activity in life is the father consciousness. It's the intelligent love. It's the will. So you can think of it the yang, we have the yin yang.
Okay,
The
yeah.
mother is the forming element. It's the bonding and the rejection. So you can see how a mother carries her child, how it grows. She's bonding with it. It's connected to her, and she keeps it safe. So there's the two drives, and those manifest as the that behavior, the repulsion and the attraction, but also as the magnetic drive. So it explains electromagnetism, and they had this download where as the body is forming, it's that dance between the father and mother consciousness that creates that unique
Oh my
signature
God.
of our fingerprints, which I thought was really cool. But it's
That
back
is
to this
super cool.
physicality, right? It's back to this physicality. Yeah, like we can see, and this is one of the ways. I mean, this is actually maybe a good practice for any listeners, who want to take this into meditation, is to just really sit with the body and like just feel the body as a whole. You can even tune into certain areas and just recognize that the form is the mother. Like my spirit name is Ondakin. It talks about the land, and indigenous people would say we are the land and our bodies are the land. And that makes like we can just look at that practically. Like we ate food that made our body that grew from the land. Of course, like it's an aspect of how could we're not separate from the land, we wouldn't be able to survive. So but when we consider our bodies as an expression of the mother and all the electrical impulses and our abilities to move as the father and really sit there in that and just like recognize like, oh, that's like the father is like it's the thing in you that moves you to want to go and do that thing, like that inspiration. Anyways, I don't mean to make the whole conversation about this, but it really fits into what you're saying about, um, at the heart of what it sounds like and what I know you're doing, Paul, and seeing you in community is reforming some of those healthy uh, bonds between parents and children through
Yes.
creative expression. You
Yeah.
know, and I just before I forget to bring it in, what I love first meeting you, I really love how you really elevated your daughter's artwork. I can see you have it artwork behind you framed. You want to
Yeah.
share a little bit about like that and how, because so many of us don't have any artwork from our children from when we were a child. Like it might have been discarded as like, oh, well, it's not very good yet. They haven't, or, they haven't built, they're drawing the same house over and over again. But I love that you elevate children's art. I think it's so important. You
Hmm.
want to talk a little bit about that? Because I think it really fits
Sure.
well into this
Yeah.
conversation.
Yeah, that I love that. Thank you. Yeah, that's definitely a main goal of this community is raising that level of consciousness for parents. I think I hadn't really articulated it that way, even though I think about it that way. I've never really vocalized that, but like how parents understand their own kids' art is another level of conscious awareness
Hmm.
that I think is equally important, super important, where if we can acknowledge just the easy sheer mere thing of like acknowledging that our kids are doing something with like a creative expression of themselves, that in itself is powerful. So
Hmm.
um, making children's art more meaningful by giving it more of a presence, I think there's a lot to untangle about how art can be put into certain contexts and made more important or less important by how it's presented. I think the modern material paradigm has really distorted this. I dramatically distorted this. Not always negative, but there's a whole conversation there. I would
Hmm.
love to talk about that because it gets really complicated and interesting. But the way that art is kind of respected in our society is that as soon as you put it in a like shapeless white room, they literally call it the white cube. I
Hmm.
maybe I shouldn't disclose this, but there's a gallery out there that's called White Cube. I mean, like
Okay.
literally. So it's the pinnacle of like understanding something aesthetically is to like have zero association with it
Hmm.
surrounding it. Any other associative things around it.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
locked into that one thing
Interesting.
to interpret it as its own unique thing.
Hmm.
And I think there's profound power to that, and that it's like really it's like a thoughtful thing, and then it's at the same time it's like this hyper material thing.
Yeah.
So it makes it there's like this weird contrast, this like really there's a uh losing my words here. There's a struggle to like make something significant um out of nothing.
Hmm.
And
Well, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. Go
no,
ahead.
no. I'll say one more thing because I'm like how this all plays out with honoring or at least like putting children's artwork into a dynamic where we can look at it with that level of like I respect this as like a visual object. It's hard to say without too many associations. It's like a really
Hmm.
difficult thing to like
Yeah. Yeah.
articulate it without it sounding like there's a level of like judgment. But how that what that does is allows us to, going back to what we've been talking about this entire time, it's like honoring the consciousness.
Mm,
It's like it's just a level of honoring the consciousness. It's like
mm,
we can put it up on a wall however we want, individually. I think we need to be doing it on a societal level, like more in the same way that we honor art that is part of like the modern paradigm and the like material paradigm of today, and like put children's art in like galleries and like have a museum where it's like children's art is being given that same kind of
mm,
respect, acknowledgement, and like where are the historical figures that were children that
mm,
painted things?
mhm,
Because there is like incredible things that children have made.
mhm,
Like, why aren't those put in the same kind of category as like, oh, because adults did it, it's automatically more significant in some capacity. But like
yeah.
you go to a museum, you're only going to see you might see an incidental thing that was an object made by a child or like played
Mm,
with by a child, but it's not its significance is not the fact that the child made it. It's the fact that there's like, oh wow, look, this civilization back then also had children.
mm,
That's really like what what it boils down to. So I would love to see a world where we could have an honoring of the child, and from that perspective, where we can be like, yeah, we the most significant element of our species, of our civilization in this time period was that we cared about the pure consciousness of our earliest
mm.
members.
Yeah. That's beautiful, man. I really appreciate that. And I mean that's really as the at the heart of Lightheart Vision, like it's named after our daughter, and it's not about her, it's about the light that's in her is the same light that's in all of us.
Hmm.
And honoring that. Well, our society prioritizes and elevates achievement over presence, right? And if we
Yes.
were to reverse that and have presence over achievement, we would definitely we would be revering children because their level of presence, and especially when they're like really young babies. I mean, I think someone has to have something maybe physiologically or psychologically wrong with them if they're not enamored by the presence of a child, a baby when they're first born. They're so light, like they're just like they look at you, they're just so intrigued, like they see us really how we
Mhm.
are, and we our vision gets covered up, I think, if especially if we're not doing our inner work for a lifetime, we take on all these beliefs and stuff. So I really appreciate, your perspective. Like you're such a deeply considerate and articulate person, Paul. And what I was going to mention too is like it sounds a lot like what you were talking about science. Like science has gone on this big extreme to find this objective truth. And it sounds like the white cube is the artistic rendering of this. It's
Yeah,
like let's take away everything, like that's even
exactly.
possible. Let's take away no relational aspect and this thing. It was like, well, that's not possible because you can't remove the subject from like this is the one thing that like there's so many things that are glaring in our face when it comes to like religion and science and all this stuff. It's like, okay, well, we know the observer effect is real when we look at something. So how could we ever have something an objective truth? It absolutely is. It makes no sense. It's like there would have to be no one, nowhere to say this is the truth. And like, well,
Right.
what would be even the purpose of that? It just has no purpose, like
Yeah.
so. It's very interesting to think of these things. But that's what came to me, like presence, like and this is one thing that I wonder about why we don't value it. We tell everyone like time is your most valuable thing, but come and work for me. I'll pay 15 bucks an hour to
Yeah.
do this thing that I don't want to do. Like what? Like so like what's going on here?
Right. Right. Exactly.
So and we didn't talk about this, Paul, and I think to give context to what your profession as an artist, you're also a professional, like you work in galleries and you
Right.
actually do a lot of work to install and create these exhibition spaces that,
Mhm.
I love going through exhibitions. I feel like art really can expand our consciousness when we really give it that time and presence. Do you want to talk a little bit about that? Because I feel like that has given you some of these insights? Because what are you experiencing?
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
there's a level of care and a level of even I would imagine some creativity involved in
Oh, yeah.
mounting a lot of these things, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I have been working in that art world in that capacity for the past 15 years. So it's been my entire career. I wasn't planning on making it my career, but it is what it is. So in certain ways, it's been like a really cool, unique experience. Uh, and I'm extremely fortunate to have seen some of the things I've seen, to hold some of the things I've held. Like I've held Monets, I've held like really significant artists from the early 20th century. I mean, the most significant stuff is stuff that I like, of course, but like a $200 million Pollock, like I've held that, and it's part of that is this dichotomy again. Like I feel like there's a constant theme of this of our conversation of like there's the like tangential or the what's the word I want? Like the whoa, that was weird.
What happened?
I There was a very weird sound that sounded like it came from the apartment above me.
Hmm.
Um, more well, there's like the like trans like what's the word I want? Where it's like out of body kind of experience of something.
Transcendental?
Transcendental, there you go.
Hmm.
And then the like physical experience of something where it's like
Hmm.
literally this guy painted this thing on a piece of wood and it's
Yeah.
like literally trash. It was going to be thrown away and would be nothing. It would just be a totally insignificant thing.
Be
And
dust. Yeah.
yeah, it'd be dust by now. It'd be like incorporated into the soil by now. And but because he like threw literally splattered paint on it, like he broke all these rules for the time, and we herald this object that he made as so significant
Mhm.
that it needs to be given the ultimate royal treatment at all times. It needs to be special at all times. And that's like this materialist thing, this angle that is like, okay, like, yeah, squaring that with like the experience of the object and the experience of the painting as someone would experience it in a gallery or in a
Mhm.
museum. It's a very weird dichotomy because you're constantly like battling like what is it about this that is so important when I can see that it's on a piece of wood or like that this
Yeah.
this canvas is just like it's deteriorating
Yeah.
or it's sometimes it's actual trash.
Yeah.
Um
Or a toilet, right?
yeah,
Or something. Or
yeah.
poop in a jar. It could be poop in a jar.
Exactly. Yeah, you're familiar enough that you understand like the 20th century
Yeah.
trajectory of modern art has really like it pushed all the boundaries to do that on purpose. So yeah, you're kind of left with this like it's always like um a struggle to like what is the significance here? And I think with the material like the dogmatism of it is like you have to put it in the white cube.
Mm.
That's the only way to make it important is like
Mm.
you have to just make it the most prestigious looking thing possible. So
Mm.
there's no other associative thing, and it can reign supreme in that environment. And then it's like, yeah, but how that manifests in my day to day and like how I look at art and think about its significance is really um, taking this back to the very beginning of the conversation. I love the idea of every time you literally draw a line, you draw something and turn it into a spiral or whatever you do. Whatever you do with that line, you are influencing consciousness.
Mm.
And just like we were saying in the beginning, how art is an expression of the conscious being. So it's like our reminder to go back. It's our way of uh expressing the inner, God is really like I consider every single piece of art no matter how mundane, no matter how much I dislike it, every single expression that we can identify as art is adding to the collective uh, awareness of consciousness.
Mm. Yeah.
So even AI, even things that we are seemingly like losing control over, we're kind of like, we're of course we're doing, of course that's impacting consciousness. You know what
Mm.
I mean?
Yeah.
So even if the artists themselves has an ulterior explanation or a way, a vision that they um, support that maybe doesn't align with that idea, it's still doing it because people will see it in a way, just the way, same exact way that we have conversations and learn from each other. We
Mm.
see images that other people make, and sometimes it's just so foreign and so unique and bizarre
Mm.
that it totally disrupts our paradigm. Like we have
Yeah.
to push that into our brain now. We have to like deal with what that means and why people make that.
Mm.
And there, our species is so huge. Like where we're at now is like nearly 9 billion people on the planet, and like we can't possibly understand every single person's vision just from like our day-to-day experience, but we can see what they the symbols that they put out, they
Mm.
project into the
Mm.
world.
Mm.
And that's what art does. It manifests as symbols, as it's
Yeah.
like that's how what we you were saying earlier about like Chinese characters kind of are pictorial in their most essential element. And like, yeah, definitely.
Mm.
And that's like how everything that we understand about communication with each other is rooted in art. Like
Mm.
cave paintings was the way that we communicated to each other. So that evolved over time to create symbols. If you look at any Southwest like rock art, that stuff is so fascinating because it's totally incoherent to us now.
Mhm.
But like they had a very distinctive reason for making all
Yeah.
sorts of shapes and like
Yeah.
identifying like characters in certain ways and a lot of things. How else were they, what else was motivating them
Sure.
other than like a spiritual cosmic awareness of
And
something.
wanting to pass it forward to somebody, right?
Yeah. So that is what art is in my like
Mm.
Cliff Notes version. It's so like how that how I interact with it on the day to day is like I'm always thinking about that. Like
Mm.
I can't not think about that when I'm putting a painting on the wall and dismissing it as like, oh, this is boring or whatever.
Mm.
I like I'm always reminding myself like this thing is something that I've never seen before, and like how the colors and the lines interact with each other is totally unique unto this thing. Even when it's a print and it's like a reproduction, how it prints onto a piece of paper. That piece of
Mm.
paper is a unique piece of paper. We try to make things like the same, and we try to market them as um, in an objective way, and
Mhm.
that never can truly. It will never ever be true. Like AI, even AI can't do this perfect replication thing.
Mhm.
Like,
Mhm.
and that's just how the consciousness keeps expanding and keeps growing. Then, yeah.
Yeah. Well, no, I think it's really like I feel like awakening has a lot to do with going exploring into juxtapositions or paradox,
Mhm.
and there's laughter to be there too. Like we as a species take ourselves so like artists, I've never really jived too much. Like I always did art and I always loved art, but I found like I didn't hang around really the arts community too much just because I felt like there was a lot of like significance issues in the community, like people do, like we all have ego, but
Yeah.
some of us put greater significance on the ego than others. And I like I was saying as a child, I was always more interested in creation than in, being significant. That's just me. Like I didn't like the spotlight on me, right? So I liked just exploring and going on adventure. And like to me, the experience of life is, but I really like how you kind of bring these, like I can tell you're a deep philosophical thinker, Paul, and I wonder if you have I'm sure you probably have this outlet with some of your colleagues, but I bet a lot of the art installers that you're around are probably not going to the depths that you're going as they're hanging up some of
Yeah.
these things, right? They're just like,
Yeah.
I want to go on a smoke break, like let's do
Right.
this. Who
Well,
knows,
I mean,
whatever.
you can tell I have not articulated out loud. I talk to myself all the time, so
Yeah.
this is a first for me to like really get this whole philosophy out in my own words. Sometimes you scramble for looking for the right word, and you say things that don't sound
No,
quite so.
everything you said, it was coherent to me,
Oh,
and I
okay.
think there's some really significant things that I'd like to just kind of pick out because like so that juxtaposition of okay, this is a physical thing that's never existed before, just like the fingerprint we were talking about.
Yeah,
An
yeah.
artist, like, and I realized as I grew up and developed, the significance of a lot of art is like people still
Mhm.
made time and made importance enough to do these things. Like you can get in the hustle bustle world. I find it difficult. I want to show you something because like I agree with you. Like to me, every little thing is significant in life, and yet when you look at it from this expansive place, it's like also if everything is just it's just like it's all just vibrating particles. It's not even solid, So
Right, right.
it's like so there is a juxtaposition. Like so this is an art project. I can't see it. Oh, can you? No.
Oh, I can only see the edges of it.
It's a drum.
Oh, this is your drum oh yeah,
Yeah. Okay, there you
this
can
is
see
so
it.
cool. I can
Yeah,
see
so
that
that so
a
this
little
is
bit.
what I did with my daughter. And now we put our footprints and stuff on here and
That is
and
awesome.
and so like but you know what's it's been a real journey for me because I like sometimes I'll do a layer and then I'll do all of my fine intricate like light language and coloring and stuff, and then my daughter will come and she just goes scribble scribble scribble
Right.
scribble, she does all this stuff over it, and a part of me is like okay, because what you
Yes.
were talking about, the significance, like, oh, I put my consciousness into this, like that line. I this was forming this way, and she came and just go she, and like, and
Uh-huh.
then I'll take what she did and I'll play with it and I'll add colors and shades and stuff, and it's this dance I'm doing with her, and she loves it. She's like the drum, and I think I'm at layer 6 now, and I call it it's interesting on school because I feel this way even about like school posts and like you talk about digital life. It's like I don't think there's anything that is not interesting. This is maybe a double-edged sword for me, but I wrote a post all about it. I call it the Phoenix Heart Drum. And it's this and it's I'll get to a certain level layer and then I'm gonna take each layer off and I'm gonna do a marathon painting and do some layers of I think probably oil and acrylic and mix and just like and it's meant to be like there's imagery hidden in it that's gonna come out in this
Oh,
process and
cool.
and and I, I to me it's a gift that so it's like that paradigm that I'm hearing, just to use this as an example, the physicality of it is it's not where the real value is because the value is in me we're doing this with my daughter and forming a relationship through our creative expression, having something to look forward to together, and there's all this meaning and experience that's gone in this, and there's memories in there, and that's what kind of where I was kind of in everything we've talked about. A lot of it has to do with memory. Like we're actively creating memory, whether it's Times Square 2005 or
Yep.
the 90s. I love the 90s because the music and stuff was so palpable, and that's another artistic thing they copy and we hear it in the airways, but there's those significant moments that created that music. So I feel like humanity, as it seeks to return home to itself, it does it by anchoring into these physical things, whether it's this drum. Someone like if I were to auction off this drum, people would see the physicality of it as the value, but really is the it's the memory that was created in consciousness that I feel is part of this dance, and it is a paradoxical dance. I think there's a laughter in it, and
Yeah.
like children are not attached to the art they're making, but doesn't mean that it's not so valuable that it shouldn't be up on gallery walls and stuff. Just to kind of like, maybe I'm not articulating it very well, but I feel like it's a
I get what you're
very
saying.
important.
Yeah.
This is really it's significant, right? Because it comes down to what you said. I really loved when I asked you like about cosmic consciousness and like what that term is. It's like you said it so simply. It's like, well, it's who we are. It's what we are.
Hmm.
And I feel like that's the perfect thing to remember too, is that we're creative. We're come from a creative source, and we are
Yeah.
that. And that's why art is so important, right?
So many things that I've read about, like understanding creativity and teaching children creative things or how to be creative, or it's always acknowledged in this text that the creativity is just like a source. It's just not, it comes naturally. It's inherent to all of us. Uh, but I think this notion, this juxtaposition idea can be further enhanced and maybe articulated a little more accurately or smoother with comparing like an indigenous civilization or tribe or whatever situation to like a modern
Mm.
institutionalizing system. Because both can achieve the same thing, but they're just operating at these completely different approaches and different scales. And I think what you obviously have a lot of experience with like the indigenous angle, and I see that drum and all the associations for me are immediately like, oh, this is like some kind of native tribe thing. And like even the line drawings on it and tracing your footprint and stuff like that really speaks to this like organic kind of stream of consciousness thing that we can't really replicate in the same way by using all the like modern material paradigm
Mm.
material stuff. So like paint, even I talk about this too because I'm heavy into economics. This is like a new branch of the conversation if we want to go there. But like how things manifest is like a direct response to our um, okay, so there's a theory that's called oh my God, why am I blanking? Ludwig von Mises is an economist who kind of popularized or made this whole theory. Hold on one second. This book called Human Action, okay?
Mm.
So his entire thing is oh my, I'm blanking on the what it's called.
That's all right, man.
I'm like slowly my brain is
Well,
slowly.
while you're looking for that, it's interesting. The other thing that came to mind too about art is the juxtaposition of like we tell children, "Oh, you don't want to be an artist because artists starve." And
Right,
yet,
right.
the most valuable objects
I,
on the planet
yes,
are art.
exactly. Yes,
Like
exactly.
literally. Literally, I was
Right.
talking to a screen printer when we were on the island, and I'm very fascinated with screen printing. I would love to have a studio and learn about like flat print screen printing and take some of the art that I've done and do copies. He's like, Nathaniel, what other profession can you take a like $2 piece of paper and make it into like $1,500? And I'm like, that's a good point. And
True.
and what he was saying, he's like, do you know what the most valuable art in North America is? And I was like, not sure. And he's like, Andy Warhol, and he just did screen printing. And I was like, oh,
It's
so
true.
it's interesting that you bring up the economics too, because that's an important part of the discussion in terms of the art world, because like there is art for art's sake, but also like there's mega bucks behind what people value, our creative expressions. I mean, back from antiquity all the way up to modern art. And a lot of it, like you brought up Pollock, but like because he broke the rules, right? So he
Mhm.
challenged art. I did a when I was working at the gallery, they had a Gauguin exhibition, and I was looking at his paintings. I'm like, I really don't get it. But when I started learning more about him and how he really challenged the color theory of the time and a lot of the other social elements, and same with like Van Gogh and like stuff like that, who really kind of broke the some of the barriers and brought themselves into the art in a new way. They evolved the language of the art and our perception of it. So that's the value. So the physical object is like a reminder of that, and back to that concept of memory. So did you
Yeah.
come to mind what you were going to say about economics?
Well, I'm it's
Speak from your
really
heart, bro.
sad because I wrote a whole entire paper on this,
Oh, did
and
you? Okay.
this was like my my theory was kind of like rooted in this I can't believe I'm like
Well, you know
blanking.
what? Maybe it's synthesizing a new way. I know anytime we have these conversations and we start bringing in other elements and
Yeah,
it synthesizes things and it allows us to
true.
expand our perception of it, right?
Yeah, that's like a very interesting point. And like this is kind of the same idea behind some of the letting go, repression, suppression stuff is like you really your brain is organized in such a way that it does it the most efficient way.
Mm.
So um maybe my brain is just shutting down because it's not integrating these two things. And this like like consciousness conversation with like um oh my God, I can't even process the word. It's the word that I'm trying to remember here. Okay.
Hmm.
But it's basically this
Talk about the meaning of the word. Maybe we'll come to you.
it's basically this economist Ludwig von Mises wrote this book. His treatise, his economic treatise, is Human Action, which is essentially that economic man is like conscious man, and in a that is the essential point. And conscious man is like you do something, you want something because you work and attain things because you have the natural desire to do it.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so it's on the one hand, it's like completely not profound, and then when you process it, it becomes this like mind-boggling like perception of how everything in the world operates, and from like a very objective kind of material paradigm
Well,
lens.
well, it's interesting that word desire too. Um, the root of it means of the father, right? Sire is father, right? Of the
Oh,
father.
yeah.
So
No
when we
way.
talk about desiring things, it's talking about accessing from the potentiality of infinite intelligence, right? So I hear what you're saying. Like there's this innate, at least this is the lens I'm seeing it from. There's this innate desire in us to evolve, to express, to create, and add value. Like I look at human civilization. I mean, you can look at it from many different cultural lenses. The architecture, like even just that alone, like what's built, we don't have
Right.
to make things so ornately beautiful, and the extent to which architecture is created. Um, and the more conscious whether it was the architect or the civilization, the more beauty is put into that. I feel like the less
Yeah,
conscious, like the stuff that's come out of the industrial age, where there was so much more indoctrination and the pumping of the generations through these like conveyor belt systems, like, oh, you're all the same age, you go through the same grade,
exactly,
and
exactly.
that created these really like these government buildings that are just brick, square, ugly, no character, no rootedness in any kind of culture. Like so that's what I'm hearing is like the more conscious we are, the more our economics
Yes.
reflect that. And I also feel like the more harmonious our ecological relationship with things too. Like I think of revered architect what's his name? He's a famous American architect there. He has like the river building. Um, it's super famous. It's just escaping me.
Frank Gehry?
Pardon me?
Frank Gehry?
No, it's
Oh, Frank Lloyd Wright?
Frank Lloyd Wright. Yeah.
Okay.
So think of how he designed buildings that were like with the land. And then I
Right,
think
right,
even,
right.
like
Integrated. Yeah.
so I feel like the more aware we are consciously, the more we have care for the aesthetic connection and that harmony. And I feel like this is also going to manifest in our technological advancements too. Like as we've come from a really kind of very kind of gray area of like computers. I mean, when my dad was a teenager, he was running the boxes of like the print with the print cards, the hold cards to run the
Right.
computers. He was like, delivering those things. And it came from this very like kind of nuts and bolts, like through the gray PC era, and then thank God for Apple and Steve Jobs and wanting to have aesthetics and having nice print and type and stuff. Like thank God for that. And then
Right?
um, now we're seeing like I mean phones just keep getting more and more beautiful. Eventually now we have like just glasses we're going to be wearing and it gets more and more aesthetically part of it. But then like you're saying, there's that juxtaposition, that fine line we're always walking. It's like if we go fully into that, we lose our sense of unique
Yeah.
self-expression. So we always have to be like practicing this one skill, which I feel like is the most important in this era we're going into. And for parents too, conscious parents I believe it's fostering discernment, really
Mhm.
this helping our children cultivate and for us to also cultivate our own discernment, whether you're like looking at something like, is that true? Like, is that even a real video? Or you're someone's writing or someone's offer, or talking about economics, like, or even if something's right for you, like just because someone did it successfully and now has a private jet, is that right for you to do the same thing? Like, or are you
Yeah.
here for a different to fulfill a different purpose?
Yeah.
So
No,
does this all kind of like wrap around the economics kind of
yeah,
framework that you
yeah.
were talking?
I finally remembered the word. It's praxeology. Praxeology.
I won't remember that word tomorrow, but
But like I wrote a
praxeology.
whole
Okay.
paper on it, so it
Okay,
should be
praxeology.
like
Okay.
top of my head.
It sounds like does the word pragmatic in that, like practicality? Or
Yeah,
is
I actually don't know what the prax like so like uh what is the academy? There's like there's a school that's like Prax Academy, I think.
okay.
But yeah, praxeology, I don't the etymology I couldn't break down for you, but I know there's a Greek word there, something
Okay.
about self-interest or self like action.
Mm.
But no, totally like what you just said is super beautiful and like that is in my processing ability and like how I understand the world and what I think is significant about art in general is like that is the tool for discernment. Art
Mm.
is the way that you discern.
Mm.
That's the best way and the most adaptable way, the most
Mm.
straightforward, most technically challenging, most like thorough. Everything about what you engage when you work on art is like engaging every like discernment on every level. So you're really doing that to not to repeat myself. My brain is shutting down. But yeah, I totally agree. Totally agree. And
No,
how like we are where we're at with this now, um, in terms of like material culture is really the thing you were saying about Apple and that like it's almost to me that I'm just going off of like I haven't thought about this that deeply, but like to me that almost feels like a veil. Like it's something that is wonderful for our ability to engage with something that's so uh impossible to like grasp,
yeah.
like
It's
the Apple
intangible, right?
product. Sorry?
It's intangible. Like it's
Right.
yeah.
Right. It's
It's
like
ineffable, like our relationship with the ineffable.
exactly like the beautiful object, the universally understood thing is that Apple products are beautiful. That's like their entire sales point, right?
Hmm.
And that in some ways I've and my mind flashes back to like conversations I've had about this in like art school.
Yeah.
Where that was kind of like a Trojan horse for AI or for some kind of
Yeah.
art, some intelligence to like really seep into our conscious or our way of being, like to really where we are like more accepting of the object, the synthetic nature of the thing, um, to let our guard down in a certain way because it's more beautiful.
Mm.
If that, because like there's a
I hear
major
you.
shift when you look
Yeah.
at things from the 80s and you look at technology from the 80s, they had like a way different cultural kind of uh reference point for what like high technology what it was aesthetically.
Hmm.
And it was boxy and bulky. I mean, you look at all the different eras
Yeah.
of like pop culture like I'm just thinking about like the 60s and like the 50s, all the movies, all the sci-fi movies from that era and how that's evolved over time and like how that impacts our general social awareness of like what technology should be and how we should be engaging with it. And I have like
Yeah.
I'm of two minds about like the significance of how technology can be this like incredible thing, but also really open the door. It's a Pandora's box kind of
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like, I think, like Mr. Rogers and his mission to create quality programming to help, children through the TV, knowing that children are watching TV, like it's just a reality. There's children right now playing
100%.
VR games, and they could be creating worlds and using their imagination to build things, or they could be shooting zombies, like,
Yeah.
right?
Well,
So,
that's a really, yeah, profound point because of how it's really how you interact with it. And that's
exactly.
where we have to be at all times as a society. Like exactly what you're saying about the discernment. We have to teach our children
Hmm.
discernment.
Hmm.
And that becomes the way we engage with it. It's not,
Hmm.
it's like the aesthetic angle is that's what I mean. It's like that is what the Trojan horse is. It's like it doesn't matter that your tablet looks really sleek and beautiful if your kid is watching it 7 hours a day and
And
like
watch
become
and consuming and not creating.
and
Yeah.
like yeah, there's
Yeah,
nothing about
exactly.
the aesthetic of it that's like enhancing their
I
experience.
agree. Yeah,
You know what I mean?
100%.
Like
Yeah.
so
And yet the
that
designers who design that, they're driven by some kind of creative, you know,
right?
I don't it's easy to point at like the corporate world as like, the evils of all the things that are out there trying to garner attention and that there is self-interest out there, but also like there is this drive towards creating things that are beautiful as our species as a whole, right? And I feel like yeah, like what you said, just I love what you say about art giving that refined sense of clarity and discernment. And to me, it speaks to our relationship with life itself, right? Because when we spend
Yeah.
time actually playing with the materials of life, using our hands, whether it's sculpting something or painting something or writing something, you're actually physically, I mean, you're using your digits, right? And the word technology, I believe I read this in Jerome Lanier's book, "You Are Not a Gadget." The root etymology of tech, people think technology is their phone. It's the gadget, but that's actually not what technology means. The
Oh, I
root
think I've
word of
heard that.
yeah, I
Sorry.
might have even
Sorry.
shared it with you. Like technology is idea. It's the idea behind the technology. So like really we can accredit Gene Roddenberry for the technology of iPads and iPhones and stuff like that. I mean the tricorders that, and
Right.
like like that's all Gene
Shortcuts.
Roddenberry and even
Yeah.
Steve Jobs said like that was the inspiration behind those things. So
Oh,
I
that's
feel
so fascinating. It's so
yeah, isn't it? Right. So there's this inspirational element, and yes, we can get caught in the commerce, but let's gonna wrap this up. And I think this conversation deserves a part two, Paul, because I feel like there's so much more
love that.
from you that wants to come out, and I'd love to go more deeper into the economics and all that stuff. But let's just bring it back to school. I've been using this podcast to introduce school to a lot of folks because it's different, right? And I
Mhm.
feel like this is where some of the discernment is playing. Like there's no advertisements on school. Like school itself is a total affiliate system that's if it's used properly, like all we can all rise together, but it's all based on authentic interaction and engagement and it's gamified in that way. So, I mean, it could potentially be used like unhealthily as well, but in contrast to the idea of commerce and deceiving people to buy more based on, aesthetics and stuff, like it's night and day. So like
Yeah.
what is you've obviously as a community builder drawn to this authentic engagement with people and there's also like the economics there too. Like what do you feel is kind of special about this new era that we're going into? And what you're seeing kind of like develop, because I loved your title idea, like the Generation Alpha is reawakening this cosmic consciousness in us. So, what are you seeing that is inspiring that kind of thinking within you?
That's an awesome question. And I think school in itself not to give them free advertising too much, but like they have really done something that seemed like it was a lost cause. Like the social media landscape was so distorted and so like perverted. And I mean, it's so easy to put these um, these companies into that evil corporation category because they are behaving in ways that are just pure evil. I mean, I don't know how else to elaborate other than like look on Google calling itself Meta. I mean, Facebook calling itself Meta, like starting like incorporating all these like making this behemoth thing and calling it Meta. Like that and it's alone that using that language, speaking of like sci-fi informing how the real world becomes, manifests. It's like that the like what you're gonna really have the audacity to call yourself like the metaverse, something about that just really bothered me. It just really
And
disturbed me.
meta in Eastern terms also means love, which is interesting too, right? Met with two T's, meta. Yeah.
It is interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, like school, you can tell it's like it's still small enough that, and the owner is still really participating in a way that this is a different experience, and they've
Hmm.
actively pursued that to make it marketable in that way, not
Hmm.
to be it's just all the associations that come to mind when I think about how social media has evolved. It's really
Hmm.
funny because school kind of has taken all those things, all the markers that really were defining moments for social media, like the like button or, like commenting on people's posts and like posting pictures and like all that kind of stuff.
Gifts.
And yeah, and it has incorporated it in such a seamless way with authentic engagement.
Hmm.
And of course, it's not perfect and it's the internet, so not everybody's going to be 100% them like authentic self.
Hmm.
It's just what you said, like they gamified it in such a good way that at this moment it is operating about as best you can operate a social media
I would
network.
say so, yeah. And
Like,
also the resonance factor, right? Like, I mean, you and I met through pure
exactly.
resonance of you were talking about intergenerational work through art, parents and children. I mean, I've done these workshops in the past, and it's like because of that resonance, we found each other. So I feel
Mhm.
like they've tapped into a way of like helping people find one another that we literally do need this. Talk about the physicality of resonant consciousness on our planet, because the more of us that gather who have these inspired ideas and can actually collaborate and synergize our efforts together, the more quickly we can have some of these truly yearn for community experiences and developments in our world. So
Yeah.
I mean, wherever it goes, I will always be grateful for Sam Ovens and all the team that's been involved with the development, from Andrew Kirby coming in as a partner, and also Alex Hermosi. I feel like there is a wave of conscious individuals who really care about humanity. And they might, I mean, we've all got our stuff. We all have our inner work that we have to keep doing. But when I look at humanity as a species, and I think we're conditioned a lot to think about humanity in a certain way through like school and stuff. But I really feel like there's a goodness in humanity. I've always seen like there's this. I don't believe that humans we don't thrive in conflict. We thrive in collaboration, and
Mhm.
creativity in arts is a beautiful example of that. Like if we think of all the people on this planet actively involved in collaborative efforts to make art happen, like
Mhm.
to make, performances happen, to make, I mean, I think of all the crew that are involved behind the scenes of a concert they'll spend days and days
Crazy.
rigging these huge things for an event that takes 2 hours,
I
and
know.
for thousands of people come in and watch this thing, and then for it to like and then disassemble it. Like we invest so much effort into creating memories and moments and beauty. And
Wow, that's a beautiful angle to explore for sure. That is
we need a part two, right?
great. No, we do. Yeah,
Hey,
that's
listen, brother, it's
true.
been such a pleasure having you on. I'd love to ask you this question. I love asking inspired people this. If you could have a megaphone and the whole world could hear you say something to it, anyone could listen to you, what would you say to the world?
Pay attention to the children.
Mhm. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, I think that would be it.
That's beautiful, man. Pay
Pay
attention to the
attention.
children. Hey, you know what? You're living that. You're an embodiment of that conscious father. I really appreciate you. I appreciate our connection as brothers and as community builders that are, uplifting those that we touch and one another as well, and inspiring one another into new ways, Paul. So thank you so much for coming on the show. To our audience, you can check out Paul on the Art Explorers Club. Where else can they find you, Paul?
You can find me on Substack. I am also under Art Explorers there, Art Explorers Club there, where I'm trying to do regular articles, just exploring all of these ideas that we've talked about in this, but with regular features on famous artists and their contributions and
Cool.
how that interacts with children of the modern era. So, yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, thanks for your ongoing contributions, and yeah, look forward to seeing how things grow and develop for you as well. So, blessings to you and your family, and to all of our listeners here. Be sure to tune in and do like and subscribe. I'm just going to invite our daughter Luciana to say a farewell to us. So, I'm just going to mute and hide my audio and share my screen here, Paul.
Amazing.
And thanks so much for coming on, man.
Oh,
It's
no,
really a pleasure having you.
everything extended back to you. Thank you so much. It's been amazing.
Yeah, man. All right, love it.
Thanks for watching. You say ciao ciao.
Bye.
I love you so much.